are
We're
you?
live. I'm so excited. This will be fun. I'm new to Substack, everyone. Should we give everyone so Aaron is kind of giving me a little lesson in Substack uh etiquette and how the best way to use this platform. So Aaron, you're the king of Substack, my love.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm so excited that you're on this platform. And to everyone who's joining, please go click. You have a little button at the top left. Go click that and subscribe to Katie's Substack because I mean, it's so great to see a legendary journalist come on and be independent on this platform. And I know a lot of folks are super excited that you're on here and that you're going to start producing content on here and doing your interviews on here as well. So if you guys haven't subscribed to Katie's Substack yet, please go do so now. How are you feeling on Substack? How's it been?
Honestly, I really like it so far. I mean, it's only my second day, Aaron, and so but I want to also I want to learn how to be more responsive to comments and questions that people are asking in real time because it's very hard to it's sort of when I was on television, I'd have to do interviews, pay attention to the floor director telling, counting me down to commercial. And so I just want to be, I love being interactive with an audience. I think that's the beauty of these platforms. You get to hear what people are curious about, what they want to know, and that can inform the conversation. And I think a lot of really smart people are on Substack. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to, I want to learn how to make sure that I'm being responsive to the people who are following me or joining me for these important conversations because as I said, I love sort of the two-way street of the whole thing. But give me some tips, Aaron, about how you think I could use Substack most effectively.
yeah. I mean, I number one is going live more often like this. I think they're going to be about 1,000 people in here soon, and there'll be more the longer we're on, and
I
just
know
inter.
it's interesting because on Instagram lives, which I used to do, Aaron, you have would have people kind of checking it out and then leaving. Substack is interesting, at least what I've been able to glean so far is the longer you're on, hi everybody, the more people join, which is
For
really
sure.
interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's actually sent every time you go live, it'll send an email out to everyone that's subscribed to you. So they'll get an email notification, and as they check their email, they'll hop on and join and kind of stay longer. Because I think the conversations that are happening on Substack, they're, I guess, more kind of in depth, kind of more thoughtful in a way than your typical just Instagram live or TikTok live. So doing these lives more often and kind of interacting with folks in the comments, there's so many people here excited that you're on here and that you're going to be doing some stuff. So answering their questions as they comment. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing right now. And you'll grow like that.
I also want to be, I love how you use it to kind of explain what's going on because you're such a brainiac. We were saying you're kind of the Doogie Howser of social media. And I mean that as a compliment. Do you even know who Doogie Howser is, Aaron?
I do now. I didn't when they first started calling me that about a few years ago, but now I do.
It's meant as a compliment because Doogie Howser was a brilliant, brilliant person. And by the way, everyone, I interviewed Aaron for my podcast just
Yep.
a couple of days ago. I thought it was a great conversation. Were you happy with it, Aaron?
It was awesome, and I watched it actually back today this morning, and I thought it was great. I had a great time on the conversation. Haven't done that long of an interview ever, so it was pretty great. Of
Well, thank you for your generosity with your time. But
course,
we talked a lot about Aaron and his sort of growing up and his dad and what was going on in his life. And I think some of these really important pivotal moments that made Aaron rethink his life and career and political affiliation and kind of how he saw the world. So it was really, really interesting. So I hope you guys will listen or watch our conversation. I really enjoyed it, Aaron, and I learned a lot about you and of course I was a quote unquote early adapter of oh, is there closed captioning available? That's a good question. Do they do that on Substack?
so they do on the Substack when you put it out via like the typical post. On the lives here, there isn't any closed captioning, not yet. But I have
Yeah.
spoken to folks at Substack, and I think that that's something that they're working on. It's just not there yet.
Yeah, and thank you for asking that because I really appreciate that, and I want to make sure that everybody can be a part and share in these conversations. But anyway, it's been really fun so far, and I'm still getting the hang of it. Every platform has kind of its idiosyncrasies, and the name of my podcast, everybody, is Next Question. But if you just write my name down in the podcast search bar thingy wingy, you'll you'll find me. Um, Somebody's dad is on. Is that your dad, Aaron?
Maybe, I don't know. There, I see comments like thousands of them popping up, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but maybe.
Anyway, so tell me how often you go live on Substack, and do you feel like like there's a right amount to do it? Because I don't want people to get sick of me.
I don't think people will get sick of you. I mean, I go live once every couple weeks. I know a lot of people go live a lot more often, just because that's kind of what they do. My posts are more kind of pre-planned, but I think you just have to find your groove, whatever works for you, whatever works for your time and your schedule, and if you can give people more time, then that's better. So I guess go live as often as you can. I
You
don't think
know, I
people get sick
wanted,
of you.
I'm such a news junkie still after all these years, Aaron, that if something happens, I want to talk to somebody and really kind of dissect it right away. So
Yeah,
I was reading this morning about the three judge panel, and we're going to talk about this, everyone, because Aaron's going to explain sort of all this flurry of rulings
right.
about Donald Trump's tariffs. But I read this guy named Alex Wong, who is I guess the Attorney General of Connecticut, was one of the
Yes,
people who brought the case to trial or whatever, introduced the case. I don't know if it was a lot of AGs together doing it,
it was.
but
Yeah.
anyway, so of course I was desperately reaching out to Alex Wan. I was DMing him. I was trying to get a hold of him. Our team called his office. But that's where I think hopefully I could be of service to people who kind of you do it in your own way, Aaron, because you're so smart and you understand legal issues. But if I can talk to some of these people directly involved in some of these stories and some of these developments, and whether they be lawsuits or votes on votes in the House, whatever. If I can get to people and kind of have an immediate understanding of them, I think that's where I could be helpful.
For sure. I think that that'd be amazing. And I know, for example, like Jim Acosta does lives and I just kind of brought his show over here an hour a day and he goes live with 4 or 5 folks and kind of talks about like does his CNN show here. And I think you
Yeah.
could do something very similar, not maybe in your own format.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me ask you about what's going on with the tariffs, Aaron, since you're my legal expert. And so a three-judge panel determined that Donald Trump's tariffs were unconstitutional. This came out last night. The
Correct.
White House immediately appealed, right? And then it's already been struck down. Tell us the latest on that.
Yeah, so today the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals, which is kind of the intermediary appellate court between the International Court of Trade and the Supreme Court, essentially put a pause on the lower court ruling from last night, saying that we need more time to review it, we need more time to analyze the law, the facts, kind of the briefing. And as a result, at least until we rule in the next couple weeks, the lower court ruling is going to be on pause, on ice, and Trump's tariffs will remain in effect. Now, ultimately, it won't really impact things too much because Trump already had this 90-day pause on the tariffs anyway,
Right.
right?
So when were they supposed to be put in place? I can't keep up with all of this.
Yeah, so right now the deadline is sometime in like I believe it's the first or second week of July, right? So as long as the intermediary court rules before then, this really won't have much of an impact, and it's not surprising from a legal sense. They want to keep the status quo. They don't want to disrupt things while they're deciding whether or not to move forward with a case or how to move forward with the case.
What do
Ultimately,
you
this
mean? Who are you talking about when you say they, Aaron?
the courts. The
Mhm.
courts hate disruption. The courts don't want to change the status quo. And the status quo is keeping the Trump tariffs in place, at least for now. And that's what the Supreme Court will do too, no matter really what this court decides. Because say this court agrees and says, you know what, Trump's tariffs are unconstitutional, he's going to appeal to the Supreme Court. And I guarantee you, within about 24 hours of that appeal, Justice Roberts will issue an administrative stay, also putting a pause on it while the Supreme Court decides. This is normal practice, it's standard practice, and I'm not really surprised that it happened.
I'm curious what you think how the Supreme Court will ultimately rule on this,
With
Aaron.
with this Supreme Court, it's truly anyone's guess. I'm pretty sure they'll probably split the baby on some of these tariffs on because it impacts every single tariff Trump issue, the first China tariffs, the Liberation Day tariffs. I mean, there are a whole host of tariffs. So I think they'll go kind of like executive order by executive order and try to find a way where they don't actually have to issue a full ruling and kick it
Yeah.
to the lower court because that's what this Roberts court loves to do.
Well, I love talking to you about all these
Yeah,
legal issues. I had a very long conversation with Joyce Vance. You all should get together and just totally nerd out on
that'd be fun. We
all the
could do
legal
that.
stuff. Do you know her?
I don't, but I actually I'll reach out to her. Like I think we've DM'd once or twice, but I know of her.
You guys would have such a blast talking about these things together and helping us all understand them because I think you are so good at breaking it down and kind of explaining in English what's going on because I mean the legal system is really complex and we
It
were
is.
talking about like today I was talking with her and why hasn't anyone held the Trump administration in contempt, and she was talking about how you have to put together, what is it called? A legal record or a legal, what is
Right.
that called?
You have to establish a record that they essentially put forth evidence, and it takes time, right? Like you have to have testimony and documents
And
showing that they
also all kinds of situations and examples, right?
right.
And so right now probably aren't enough to hold him or the administration in contempt.
I mean, I think it depends on the case. I think, and I tell everyone, I would argue that Trump violated the Supreme Court's ruling in the Abrego Garcia case, but the Supreme Court did it so intentionally vague. The word facilitate means different things to different
Oh,
people,
right. We talked
right? We
about that
talked
on the
about that yesterday.
podcast. Yeah.
So, is there enough to hold him in contempt? Maybe, but if he is held in contempt, it'll get back to the Supreme Court, and I think the Supreme Court will strike it down pretty quickly.
Really?
I do. At least right now, I do. It just because of the way they left the door open in their original ruling, keeping
Because they
facilitation.
left it because the ruling was so vague.
Correct. Exactly. I mean, I think there are other situations where, and even like we saw the Trump violated a court order by sending folks to South Sudan, even though the federal judge essentially said you can't do that. And even then, the judge has now kind of said, we're not going to hold you in contempt. We're not going to start contempt proceedings. We're going to allow you to remedy the situation. It's such a high bar to reach contempt proceedings. eh, I would be shocked. And also, I mean, listen, if they hold someone from the Trump administration in civil or criminal contempt, the person that enforces that is none other than Pam Bondi, the the Attorney General, right? And Trump, she doesn't have to prosecute, and Trump can pardon. So ultimately, contempt is a symbolic move here, more so than actually a punitive measure.
When you think about sort of future legal challenges, are there any, Aaron, that you're really keeping your eye on and thinking, oh, this is going to be an area where there's going to be some legal action?
Yeah, the biggest one is the birthright citizenship executive order and whether or not the Supreme Court will allow lower courts to issue nationwide injunctions, because that truly will, if it does, if it says no to nationwide injunctions, it'll forever change the legal system as we know it.
Okay, well, for us people, those of us who aren't lawyers, what is tell us what a nationwide injunction you mean and what impact that would have.
Yeah, so right now, a court in Florida, let's say, can strike down the birthright citizenship executive order and say, you know what, that's an unconstitutional overreach.
Can we
And
explain? I know people know, and I'm sure everyone who follows you is super smart, but I always like to, break it down. Can you let's review what birthright citizenship is. It's
yeah,
anybody who is born in this country is automatically a citizen, even if their parents are illegal or
undocumented.
undocumented immigrants.
Correct. And what Donald Trump, via executive order, is trying to do is say, well, if both parents are undocumented and you were born in this country to two undocumented parents, you don't have birthright citizenship. It's not an automatic citizenship anymore.
What
And
was the
he's
genesis of birthright citizenship?
That's a good question.
Oh, I stumped
You
Aaron.
stumped me. I don't have an answer to that one.
We should play a game. Can Katie stump Aaron?
That could be fun.
I'll, I'll look it up. Did you look it up? I didn't yet. Okay, sorry. My assistant is here, and she's Alyssa is helping me with all this stuff. Um, anyway, so the Supreme Court, aren't they hearing this now?
So they heard the nationwide injunction issue about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and they're going to issue a ruling by the end of June.
It originated in slavery. I remember this too, but I don't know enough about it. It's from the Civil War. Everybody's right. Do you have it? Birthright citizenship. Anyway, we can do this in another Instagram live. The
For
14th
sure.
Amendment. I did read about all this, you guys, but I don't know about you. I cannot keep all this stuff in my head.
It's
It
a
just
lot of
goes.
crazy stuff.
It
Yeah.
just it just leaves my brain. It was the freeing. Okay, sorry, freeing of the slaves. Hold on 2 seconds. I look wonderful. Well, thank you. Here.
It did arise from it was the 14th Amendment. It was from slavery. It comes from the term right of the soil. Um, I'm not sure, honestly. I'll have to dig into this.
Yeah, we'll dig into it. I know it is. It. I know it originated after the slaves were freed. But we're gonna get more information for you all later. We feel
For
sort of
sure.
I to make sure children of slaves. That's right, children of slaves were
There we
citizens
go.
after the Civil War. Thank you. See, you do have smart followers.
I do.
Anyway, Aaron, we should do this more often. It was
For
really fun.
sure.
You guys, don't forget to tune in to Aaron at our conversation on next question. It was long and it was really interesting and obviously educational for me. And also, if you feel like it, you don't have to. I don't blame you if you don't want to follow me on Substack.
No, go
But I am
go
going to be.
subscribe.
I
Click
am gonna.
click the
I,
button.
I don't want to be like follow me. But I am gonna do some interesting interviews and have interesting conversations. And I'm gonna write some things. And I also gave my recipe for banana bran chocolate chip muffins that are really good, Aaron. If you want to share them with you or have
Yes.
your wife make them, I don't know who the cook is in your family, but
If I baked, we wouldn't eat.
okay. All right. Give the recipe to her. Anyway,
Sounds
Aaron,
good.
thank you for doing this.
Take care, and everyone go subscribe to Katie right now if you haven't. I'll talk to you later,
Aaron is
Katie.
my agent. He gets 10% of nothing. Anyway, all right.
Bye,
See you
guys.
guys. Bye, Aaron.